Right now, we're going to invite Mr. Dilip Popat. He is the Global Industry Vertical Director for Retail, Microsoft Business Solutions. Please put your hands together for Dilip.
Thank you very much. So good evening, everyone. It's great to be here. Thank you for the introduction. Bit of background. I've been in Microsoft about 10 years, primarily involved in retail in one shape or form. But more importantly, my retail background really started as a young graduate when I joined Sainsbury's in the UK and spent something like 17 years probably talking about some of the things we're even talking about today, which is what's so interesting, I think, about the retail industry. So, thank you very much to DVS, to Raki and Reshma for inviting me over here. And primary purpose of my trip, because I'm very excited about the developments that's going on here, development of the work we're doing with DVS within industry. So it's a great opportunity to come out and have a chance to connect, network. Swain started touching on the theme, and I suppose the theme that I will touch on, because that's ultimately at the heart of retailing is what's happening to our consumers. Unless if we can connect with that consumer, satisfy that consumer, clearly we're not going to actually achieve the success that we need and get a customer who's really satisfied with products or services we're offering. But what's interesting is the consumer is dramatically changing. And what's beautiful about retailing is all of you are consumers. I'm a consumer. So we can relate to our own personal experiences of how dramatic that change is taking place. And I think will continue to take place. Many factors drive that. Economic growth, tremendous growth going on here. Technological advances, clearly influencing how consumers are behaving. It's just incredible to me the access to information we all have as consumers. And I think that's one of the greatest challenges and maybe even the biggest opportunity for retailers in terms of how do I essentially deal with a consumer who knows so much. And Swain touched on examples, whether it's prices, whether it's comparisons of products and so on. And I think fundamentally it's not just about consumers using information to discuss about products, but fundamentally I think even the brand, the organization's brand, the organization's credibility, your standing in the community, what does that retailer really mean for me as a consumer is what's been discussed. If you have Y generation kids, or if you yourself are a social media user, just go on to what's going on Facebook. I think developments going on in tools like Facebook or Twitter, incredible amount of information being shared. And those of us who have the Y generation kids, I know, certainly looking at my kids, they tend to actually share pre-purchase, what I'm thinking about buying. Have you bought something similar? Thinking of buying these particular sports shoes. What do you think about those shoes? What do you think about the company? Does that stand for something that I believe in? And I think that's a very different kind of consumer than I think we probably have seen in previous industries. So how do you respond to that kind of consumer? I think is pretty key. Swain touched on channels. It isn't just about I walk into the traditional store, and the store is still king, I think. Despite the growth of multi-channel and examples, of many retailers who are actually driving businesses through the web in a considerable way, but the store is still quite an important component of that channel. But it is a multi-channel environment, clearly. I can shop online, I can deliver online, I can come into the store, I can order online, pick it up at the store, I can use my mobile phone, and that's an amazing development going on in terms of being able to engage with the retailer, with the information I want, and so on. So I think that multi-channel experience is really creating many challenges in terms of how does a retailer really drive that value of their brand and the products back to that consumer, essentially. So it kind of creates, I think, this sort of customer-centric is the word that now starts being used quite a bit. Maybe not a new word for those of you who've been in retailing for some time as well, because the concept of loyalty has been talked about for quite a long time. And last year in January, I heard a lot of conversations about, I want to become customer-centric. So I started thinking, well, okay, that's interesting in terms of what people are trying to do and think about. So what does that really mean? And I think customer centricity is beginning to, relate to some of the challenges I've been describing. How do I really understand my customer? Because my customer is actually dealing with me through a lot of different channels, has a lot of information available. So how do I actually engage with that consumer in a way that can really personalize? And personalization we've talked about in the past. So how do I really recognize who he is, who she is, and really tailor my offer in a way that's much more powerful and much more personal than I've been managed to do before. Another word that keeps coming up quite often now is the concept of clienteling. Anybody heard of clienteling here? It's interesting because not long before you will start hearing a lot about it. And so this is the concept really more and more retailers thinking to say, I want to kind of use the information I have about my consumers. And as retailers, we have a lot of data, right? We have a lot of data about our consumers, but we maybe have struggled to translate that in terms of how do I upsell, cross-sell, and personalize that offer to my consumers. And the concept of clienteling is coming in to say, I can actually tap into my customer information. I can actually bring that customer in front of me, whether it might be through the web or particularly in the store, and use technological solutions to be able to really recognize and provide information and product offers and upselling opportunities that are actually directly related to the habits, the requirements, the preferences of that consumer. So I think things like clienteling are beginning to be now talked about quite a lot as a way of achieving this customer centricity direction and approach, I think. And I think the way to do this is, I think, all about collaboration. And one of the reasons why I was so excited when I heard about this particular event, because I think this is a great example of true collaboration, because these problems have to be solved between a combination of retailers, the businesses, the consumers, and I think people like ourselves, DVS, LS Retail, who are part of the kind of the providing technological solutions to address some of that. I think it's only through the collaboration that we'll be able to truly understand how do we harness all the assets we have. And particularly when I think about the development going on here, and I have a great opportunity to work through many global retailers, whether it's in Europe, in Asia Pacific, in the US, certainly. Clearly there's an opportunity for retailers in India to leapfrog, because the consumers are already there, right? So the consumers I'm describing are already here. You're in front of me with that information, that ability to deal with consumers, retailers in a very different way. So the consumer's already here, and I think retailers have a great opportunity here, I think, to leapfrog the rest of the world who've tried different things and really understand both in terms of what is good best practices, and there are many great practices out there, as well as how do we accelerate that customer centricity to the consumers in India. So I think there's a great opportunity to actually do that in terms of really understanding what else people have done, failed, and successes they've built, essentially. The Retail Center of Excellence, I think it's a tremendous initiative, and I think it really goes to the heart of the collaboration I'm referring to, because I think that gives us an opportunity to really understand what is it retailers are trying to do, what are consumers looking for, where does technology fit into that, and how do we bring all that together to really deliver the value retailers are looking for. And ultimately, I suppose the name of the game is we deliver that value to our consumers. So that was my kind of teaser, and hopefully that'll stimulate some questions and challenges and discussions as we go through the evening. But thank you very much for the opportunity to say a few words, and I hopefully have done that without many slides as well, Reshma. So thank you very much.